This video is brought to you by John Robson Guitar Tuition. If you enjoy the content, please consider supporting the channel by enrolling on a course, purchasing some guitar lessons or a t-shirt, or you can join my Patreon. Now, on with the show. Hello chaps, welcome once again to John Robson Guitar Tuition. As always, I do hope you're well. Now, those of you who were good enough to join us on the live stream on Friday, 5 PM UK time, we have a live stream, as I'm sure you know. Basically, it was a special one last week because I had a good friend of this channel here in the room with me, Mr. Bottleneck Bob Bridge. Fantastic time was had by all on Friday, it has to be said. But yeah, you'll know that if you watch that live stream that I said that today, Tuesday, I was going to be talking about my top 5 ACDC performances, and that is indeed what I'm going to be doing. Now, before I get into it and start talking about what makes this ACDC song absolutely brilliant, can we just agree that what makes any ACDC song absolutely brilliant is pretty much the same as what makes any other ACDC song sound absolutely brilliant? I'm reminded of an interview that I think Angus Young did. I think this was in the 80s at some point. And, you know, this snooty journalist was obviously trying to do a hit piece and just not quite kind of up to the task, really. One of the questions she asked was, what do you say to the criticism that you've recorded 10 albums and they all sound exactly the same? And he came back with, that's utter cobblers. We've recorded 11 albums and they all sound exactly the same. Same interview, actually, I think it was. She said, so what about the criticism that's often levelled at your band that there are too many satanic references and sexual innuendo in the lyrics? And he just looked at her and said, well, at least you don't have to play our records backwards to hear it. Brilliant. Anyway, what it is that makes, I think, pretty much your average AC/DC song sound so phenomenal are just, well, let's start off with the drums. Okay, we often focus with guitar bands on the guitar sound, but the drum sound on most AC/DC, well, in fact, all AC/DC tracks that I'm aware of, so they're absolutely pounding, powerful drums that just, and, you know, and the performance as well, you know, just such a, you know, kind of hypnotic isn't too strong a word, you know, kind of drum pattern. Nothing complicated, nothing, you know, we're not talking about the Purdy shuffle here or anything like that, but it's just good 4 on the floor, keeping the bottom end nailed down, you know, kind of rock beat. And then riffs, you know, Angus and Malcolm just had an ear for coming up with a riff that you could hear once and then it was in your head forever. Do you know what I mean? And, you know, that is the, you know, one of their strengths. I think they're at the best when they're doing the riffy kind of stuff. You know, occasionally they kind of just go more into sort of, you know, chordy kind of type things. And I never think that that's them playing to the strength. It's always when you've got like a good contoured riff that's driving the song along. The other thing, you know, I mean, any band can be tight these days because, you know, all you got to do is line it all up on a grid in Pro Tools and any band can be the tightest band in the world. But go back and listen to Highway to Hell or Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap or Back in Black or, you know, any of the albums that were recorded, you know, in the old school way by musicians plugging in and, you know, the signal going to tape. You know, no grids there to line everything upon. These guys are tight, you know, but it's not rigid, it's not, you know, tight in a way that makes it sound, robotic. It's still got that humanity there. And then the other thing is, of course, you know, the often, copied gang vocals, you know, the big anthemic choruses. I mean, thinking of something like You Shook Me All Night Long, for example, which is on this list, funnily enough, we'll get to that later. You know, where everybody in the band is singing their lungs out, you know, and maybe there's a couple of guys who aren't, you know, necessarily perfectly in tune, but it doesn't matter because it just gives that aura almost like of a football crowd shouting and chanting along. And that is infectious. It makes you want to join in. And that is, you know, a fantastic way of making a song sound big and impressive. Anyway, those are the reasons that I love all of the songs on the list. So, let's have a look at what the first one is.
Shot Down in Flames.
Yes, side 2, track 1 of Highway to Hell. I had to have a track from Highway to Hell on this list. I couldn't not include a track there. And I almost put the title track on, but I just love this. It's the opener, as I say, for the second side, because, when I first discovered this album, it was back on vinyl, in the days of vinyl. Just that, when that guitar riff comes in, da da da, like that, and there's just in the background somewhere, I don't know who it is, but somebody being picked up on one of the ambient mics goes, whoa, like that, you can tell that they've turned up, they've set up, they've plugged in, and they're going to have a good time. And that, again, that sense of musicians having fun doing what they're doing it's infectious, and it makes the music more enjoyable. And as I say, I absolutely love that whole Highway to Hell album. But if I had to only pick one track off it, which I guess I do for this list, it would be Shot Down in Flames. Next.
Whole Lot of Rosie.
Yes, indeed. Another album that I had to, grab something off. How can you not choose something off If You Want Blood? This is just the archetypal up-tempo 12-bar boogie, isn't it? And once again, listen to how tight the band are on this. It is astonishing. A band I was in many, many years ago, about 30 years ago, we had a go at covering Whole Lot of Rosie, and just that intro, da-na-na-na-na-na. Did you shout, Angus? You were supposed to. That da-na-na-na-na-na, and then the pause, and then da-da-da-da-da-da. That is that kind of thing. If your band isn't together and tight and, kind of really, on the money, that pause is so easy to get wrong, and somebody will come in slightly early or slightly late. They never do. They are a tight band, and that is evidence of it. And it's just, again, good time, fun rock and roll. And, it doesn't take itself too seriously, as, was evidenced by those quotes from Angus that I mentioned at the top of the video. So, yeah, Whole Lot of Rosie. It could have been any track off If You Want Blood, but this is the one I chose today. Next.
Who Made Who?
Now, this one's a bit of a surprise. This one is, I think it came from a soundtrack album, didn't it? What was the film? Maximum Overdrive or something? And it was like a bit of a compilation album of ACDC kind of hits that were on in this movie. And, they wrote a couple of new songs for the movie, and this is one of them. And the reason why this is on this list, well, it's just one of those things that sometimes a song is, personal to you. And, basically, I was a student at the time, and I was living in accommodation. I was living in a bed and breakfast place, and I didn't always have the rent on rent day, So I used to go on a long walk, kind of round the hills and round the lake. Basically, it was in the Lake District, so I used to go on a bit of a fell walking trip to keep out the way of the landlady until she'd had a few gins and was a bit more mellow, basically. And accompanying me was always a pocket full of spare batteries and my old cassette Walkman. And that album, Who Made Who, was one of the cassettes that I used to take with me. And I still think it's a pretty good song. It's a little bit dated sounding because of the 80s production. I would prefer it if it was a bit more raw sounding, but it is what it is, and that was a feature of the time, and it brings back happy memories for me, this song. So yeah, that's why it's on the list. Reminds me of me student days and keeping out of the way of the grumpy landlady, so that's why it made the list. Next.
Shot in the Dark.
Yes, Shot in the Dark. So, what's this one then? Well, it's off the new album, or the 2020 album, Power Up. This is as good an album as I think you will find on, by ACDC. I just think it's right up there with, Back in Black. As I think I did a video about, aging rock stars still being able to come up with the goods in the modern age a few months ago, and this album was on that list then. I think it's just a really, really strong album, and I could have picked any of the tracks off the album, to be honest with you. I love the whole album, but the one that just stuck in my head when I was putting the list together is Shot in the Dark. Again, it's got all of those kind of things I was talking about earlier. Really tight performance, great riff from... I guess it's not Malcolm anymore, is it? Rest in peace. But, great riff from Angus, and is it Stevie, who's playing, Angus is Malcolm's nephew, isn't it, I believe, who's playing with them now, and great ACDC classic song. Good riff, fantastic drum sound, great performance, just a great ACDC song. Belongs on any list of their highest achievements, I think, and that's why this one made the list. Let's see what's last.
You Shook Me All Night Long.
Okay, yeah, it had to be this one, didn't it, because I mentioned it earlier. You Shook Me All Night Long. This was, just round about the time I was starting to get into rock music, and I think in about late 70s, early 80s. And this was one of the first AC/DC songs that I remember really properly liking. And then, you do that kind of thing where you get into a band, you discover their back catalogue, that's led up to that point. And this was, in a big way, my way into the band. And it's just, again... that the big anthemic chorus, the gang vocals, the catchy riffs, the brilliant drumming, fantastic kind of Chuck Berry-esque guitar solo by Angus, and, it's just got all the ingredients. Everything is there. I think it's not just one of the best AC/DC songs that they ever did. I think it's also a pretty strong contender for one of the best kind of just classic rock tunes ever recorded. I really do. And, what can I tell you? You Shook Me All Night Long. It's a fantastic song, and that's why it rounds off this list today. If you have 5 favourite AC/DC tunes, let me know what they are in the comments section below, and maybe a line or two about about why each one made its place on your list. I'd be genuinely interested to hear all about that. And that's pretty much it for today, folks. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget the live stream, as I said earlier, 5 p.m. Friday, UK time that is. We sit and have a beer and a natter and talk about all things guitar and music related. It's a fantastic way to kick off the weekend, and I'd love to see you there if you can make it. But for now, I'll bid you all a good day and say thank you so much for watching. Thanks for your time. Look after yourselves, folks. Stay well, stay safe, and above all, stay sane. Bye for now.